let's continue this SEC thing. So this is a trend. You and I have been talking about this, and we've said it on the show a couple of times. I thought Nuclear Herbs with a retweet of this tweet was very good the other day. And I will send this one to you. This is from Meta Lawman on Twitter. I don't know who he is, but his thought here sums up basically what we wanted to say very well, and I just sent it over to you. But with what's been going on with the SEC, the approval of the ETH ETF, and all these different things happening right now, and we know that the SEC kind of throws a bunch of shit at the wall to see what sticks against a lot of different crypto entities. We're very familiar with this. So Meta Lawman says, I wouldn't settle any crypto case with the current SEC before seeing how this election turns out. Given what Trump and Kennedy are saying, I would expect a very different SEC under open-minded leadership like Hester Pierce or similar. We've talked about Hester Pierce on this show before. She is kind of a dissenting member of the SEC. Gary Gensler has straight up made decisions and said things that she went back and wrote an article about how kind of terrible it was. So that's a possibility that she can maybe head that up at some point. But he goes on to say, for starters, I could imagine voluntary dismissals of crypto cases that Gary Gensler regime has initiated where there was no fraud and no victims. I definitely could see that. He says, I would expect to return to the core mission of protecting investors rather than trying to achieve political objectives through enforcement. That last sentence is the crux of the entire thing. And that's exactly what they're doing. And that's why a lot of people within actual government that were elected are starting to come at the SEC as an agency and say, look, you are not the arbiters. You don't get to decide. You don't get to enforce your political objectives by throwing lawsuits at people like that. It's actually about trying to protect investors, not you disguising, that guise and that veil saying so. I'm interested in your thoughts on that point, but also we can talk about it in the Pulse Chain case or whichever case you want to, really. But that idea of drag this thing out, delay it as long as possible until that leadership is out of there and until things change. I think that has been the mode of Richard Hart's attorneys this entire time. I think it's been the mode of many crypto cases going on right now. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? I mean, we see the writing on the wall. Everybody hates Gary Gensler. Maybe not his family, but maybe they do. I don't know. But yeah, what do you make of that? Because I think that's a great idea to drag this stuff out, let some regime change take place. So,
well, I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and I said, unfortunately, this case is in late October. If it were only a few weeks later, and we could possibly see a changing of the guards at that point. So yeah, I totally agree to delay. See what happens, and see who becomes in charge over there when hopefully, if the administration changes, what happens on that side. Because people are getting fed up with these guys. They're already having to pay back lawyer fees and different fees. Essentially, they're saying, look, guys, we can't run this like the mafia. We can't do it. It's not right. And I just wonder how many existing cases could even get tossed out of the gate before they even happen. Right. And I don't know I don't know if that's a possibility. It would be cool if it was, and somebody comes in there and examines what the charges are, and if there really are charges, or if it's just a whole bunch of somebody sending in a complaint letter because they made a bad investment, because that's kind of where we're at now with a lot of these things. I know there's one particular person who has done it 3 or 4 times, trying to get that, the reward money for doing so. So yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. I really hope that, somebody else goes in there, examines what open cases are, which have been filed, and re-examines and says, listen, we're not even going here. This isn't our job. This isn't what we're here for. Protecting people, not monitoring closely their staking platform. Right. So yeah, I mean, it's just, I think that has been on the minds of these guys too. And, we'll see how that first case goes in October. Unfortunately, the date's set. It is what it is. I don't know that you stop a case midway. So I don't see that happening. However, it could play to an early dismissal, right? Jurisdiction easily could be played into this. And they agree with Richard's lawyers and says, no, we don't have any jurisdiction over this guy who's over there. And just because some of the users are in the United States, nobody has been frauded of anything. The money has not been spent, whatever they come to. But I could see that whole jurisdiction playing out quickly if there is a changing of the guard.
Yeah. And jurisdiction has been number one. They actually have a good argument for that because,
Right.
we've talked about it a million times. I mean, like the whole thing of like, oh yeah, at least one investor was in the Southern District of New York and at least one Uniswap developer lived around here, or whatever. I mean, that could be true of so many different areas. I've said that a million times.
Yeah.
So that's a legitimate argument. But yeah, also, I mean, I think they're dragging it out in a realistic time frame as far as they possibly can to get everything on the table here. And then again, yeah, that first thing is just really going to be about jurisdiction. And then, even if that was not granted and the case wasn't dismissed from that, well, okay, then we'll go throughout the year, like the entire year probably of 2025, going on about this. And by that time, you may have a Trump elected, you may have a Trump presidency. You could have Gensler out of there by that time. You could have a reformation of the SEC. I mean, the writing is on the wall. It doesn't really matter so much about this specific case. It just matters what is happening in the ethos with crypto right now, like in the atmosphere. The SEC is not trusted by anybody. They're losing cases left and right. We are seeing Democrats, for Christ's sake, capitulate on crypto stuff. So the SEC thing has just never worried me. Like it's a good conversation. I mean, for anybody that is entangled with them right now to, drag this stuff out as far as you possibly can. But it's just never worried me, and I don't think should worry anybody at this point. They just don't really carry any weight right now.
Agree. So. Unfortunately, it does. As far as the charts go, you can definitely see where it started and how it's going.
Yeah. Yep, we shall see. But definitely Richard's attorneys, I think, utmost trust in them. I mean, their response to everything in this case has been fantastic. So really good to see everything that they have done, and we'll continue to follow that. So what do we got here?
Just petty to submit those claims. We're not going to mention his name, but he's talking about the guy that I had mentioned that had filed 3 of them because he was a terrible investor.
Yeah.
Treated as
gambling. Well, that guy isn't hard to find on Twitter. I think
he's not.
Pretty easily.
And he's pretty much in all of the big spaces, making sure that everybody hears him complain. So
he's an equal opportunity offender. He's talked out on Richard. He's talked out on Jack Levin.
Yep.
I think and it's funny because he's loved all these things and then has filed something with the SEC. Like he was all about Fair Crypto and Zen and Jack Levin, and then he went against him. I think Jake Sharp maybe got the same treatment too. It's just a real strange way to go about things. But